Good evening. Welcome to the premiere episode of Geeky Discoveries. I am your host, Willow Schuyler. So that was the title sequence. It may get longer. We'll see. But with me tonight, say hello to Johnny Beyond.
Hey there, friends and foes. Good evening, multiverse. Super excited to be here to talk about one of my absolute favorite topics on the planet, something that I don't get to geek out about enough. And Greek and Roman mythology is my thing, so super excited.
Excellent. And I have another Greek mythology expert with me, Rich.
Howdy, folks. It's Greek and Roman mythology is what got me started down the road of the multitude of different flavors of um, mythologies and fables and stories and storytelling that got me into so many of my current intellectual addictions.
Same.
And the reason why we're touching on this, and it's something that I've always been interested in Greek mythology, but what brings me to today's episode is because we just had the Olympics just finished, and it was all kinds of controversy that happened. One of which was the opening ceremonies. A bunch of drag queens were just putting on a good show, and people thought that they were making fun of the Last Supper, which wasn't the case. It was the dinner of Dionysus. I hope I'm saying that right.
That's correct, Dionysus. The Bacchanalia festival or the Bacchanalian feast.
And
which was all, by the way, Willow, that painting of the Bacchanalian feast was the inspiration for the Last Supper painting by Michelangelo. That everyone said they were blaspheming. He took it from that source material first.
But that painting is at the Louvre.
Yep.
And the Louvre is in France, where the Olympics happened, and there's a lot of Greek inspiration or Greek mythology at the Louvre, and one of which is the statue of Dionysus himself.
You know, I love that I can say that I am hung like a Greek god.
You almost showed me a new people there.
I hope you guys aren't drinking wine right now. Don't stain the carpet.
Although this might be vodka. No.
All right. So, because this is something that I don't recall really touching on in high school or even junior high for that matter. What do you guys know of the Feast of the Gods?
So, the Feast of the Gods, the Bacchanalia Festival, Saturnalia, it is the celebration of the god Dionysus. Traditionally starts on December 25th and goes for 12 days to what would that be, January 12th. And that was the biggest festival, the biggest celebration of the ancient Greek culture. And that's why Constantine, when he became emperor, decided to inject his newfound Christianity into something that was already existing, and that's why the Christ Mass was established on the 25th of December, the opening day of the Bacchanalia Festival.
Wow.
Ta-da!
So, did Christianity take the festival and make it their own, or is that something that the Greeks still celebrate?
What happened was, over time, over centuries, the Christian traditions, the Christian celebration overshadowed the original Greek. But even as late as the 1940s, people were still referring to Christmas as Bacchanalia. So, yeah. And the thing to understand, Bacchanalia, Bacchus is the Roman name for Dionysus.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Christianity co-opted a lot of pagan rituals and festivals and things of that nature to try to bring people over to that faith, trying to replace and overshadow things of that nature. It's very reminiscent of Edward Longshank's character from Braveheart, breathe them out, kind of a thing.
Okay. So some of the gods that were in the celebration was all your favorite gods, and
sadly, it's only the left side of the painting that survived.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's actually another half of that.
Oh,
that I did not know. Bring that back up on screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Willow. So, at the far right, at the head of the table, you see Poseidon, sitting there, and the character with the club, that's Hercules, or Heracles, as he would have been called. We see the backside of Athena. She was the goddess of war and wisdom. And of course, sitting center is Dionysus. He was considered the most beautiful of the gods. Well,
if you look at the center of the table, that's Apollo. The front and center down below, drinking from the grapes, is Dionysus.
Okay. You're right.
That's cool. And
you've got to the left with Cupid. That is either going to be Venus.
That's Aphrodite, yeah.
Aphrodite, yeah, or Persephone, but probably Aphrodite.
I corrected it. It's Aphrodite.
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. I'm so glad that you guys know this. But they did a good job, with the costumes and the setup and everything. And
okay. So here's the thing, Willow. It was wildly inaccurate for what they were trying to recreate. But
it's drag queens, though.
So yes, and correct me if I'm wrong. Bring that image back up.
Okay.
The guy who is portraying Dionysus, painted blue. This image is edited because I've seen some video with some blurring, but he was completely nude except for the
I feel
belt
like
and the crown.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fairly certain he was wearing a dance belt. I could be wrong.
I saw a video where he stood up and Big Jim and the twins were
Okay.
hanging out for everyone to see.
Oh, okay. I was
Say hello to his 3 best friends, and we don't mean the guys in the Winnebago.
Yeah.
the problem. Okay, so my biggest issue that I have when it comes to the Olympics is trying to find video for any of the opening and closing ceremonies. Because I live in Canada, I gotta love it. Sometimes the videos can't be seen in my country. I don't know why. Or the Olympics seems to be taking a lot of their stuff down.
Yeah, well, they are very they have a very tight control on redistribution of their copyrighted broadcast material.
Mm-hmm.
As they should. So you're only going to find it, legitimately through legitimate sources. And if it gets put up on YouTube, it's going to be taken down real quick.
Oh yeah, especially from other sources. But hey, we got some comments in the chat. Carl Witzman is here. Good evening. Here for another exciting chapter of Willow Skylar Universe.
Well, and it's only getting freakier from here,
yeah,
Carlin, because we've taken the shackles off of Willow and we've thrown open the gates for topics.
And Donna Carleen says, "Hello, everyone. Willow's cult is here. And let's not start a cult, please."
It's a cult of personality.
I would make a terrible leader. Blade Thesis says, "Looking forward to this one. The Greek-Roman pantheon is one of my favorite things to talk about. Excellent. Looking forward for your comments." Oh yes, Donna, thank you for saying this. Don't forget to like and share, folks. Daniel McKellen, hello, good to see you. Dan Hollyfield, good evening. And everybody saying hi to everyone. Oh, Dan, hey, we're geeks. We drink and we know stuff. And Eli T. Cash says, and yet somehow hashtag Zeus is more freaky than hashtag Dionysus.
I don't know that I buy that. Dionysus was he was the god of celebration. He was the god of revelry, later on associated with wine and sexual activity.
And theater was also part
the god
of that as well.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah. But really, all of the Greek gods were about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, they were all debaucherous.
Awesome, yeah.
What's that?
Awesome. Well, I mean, you got Hestia, you got Artemis, you got Athena, who really weren't debaucherous. They were the virginal ones.
But then you have
or at least they made oaths
and Persephone, and of course Aphrodite. I mean, hello. Yeah. Aphrodite was the female counterpart to Dionysus in a lot of ways. Persephone and Demeter were more connected to fertility, but Aphrodite and Dionysus were connected to erotic love. And Zeus, Eli mentions that Zeus was more freaky than Dionysus. No. Zeus just wanted to have legacy. Zeus wanted to have he wanted to populate the pantheon and the earth with his people. He was very selective.
Sounds like another. Yeah, I'm fairly certain there was a king that was like that.
Everyone in history.
Yeah. Eli says hashtag Athena's stuck up. Athena's the stuck up. I don't know.
Well, so Eli T. Cash, this Athena gives hope to all of the sad sack, lonely losers in geek pop culture, because Athena, she was romantic with Hephaestus, Vulcan, the disfigured, the ugly, the troll who worked in the forges, forging the weapons of the gods. Athena loved him desperately. So there you go.
And my cat's name is Athena, so I.
Well, she was the goddess of war and the goddess of wisdom. So what does that tell you? That she saw the best and found love among the broken people.
Mm-hmm.
And she was also first among weaving crafts as well. It's Arachne lost a weaving contest to Athena, which is why she got turned into a spider.
Well, yes, she lost, but the reason she was turned into a spider was because Athena was jealous of her and wanted to eliminate the competition.
Athena cheated too.
Yes.
Like I said backstage before the show, like a lot of the stories of the gods seem to be very based out of jealousy.
Oh yeah,
a lot of jealousy. Yeah.
And you got to remember too, Willow. It wasn't just jealousy amongst each other, because there was a lot of that. I mean, we're talking about the original dysfunctional family.
Mm-hmm.
They were frenemies in their own family, but then these gods, these supernatural beings, supreme omnipotent masters of space and time, are jealous of humans? Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Carl Witzman
and they
says,
play the long game on their revenge on people.
Yes.
Carl Witzman says it was a soap opera for the ancients. And you know what? I think that if they were to make it, well,
That's
okay. I mean, we had like the shows of Xena and Hercules, and they were very much like our version of soap operas. But I can totally see that being something that they would show now, is a soap opera of Greek mythology. Eli says it's the woman screaming at a cat pantheons. It's funny. I never scream at Athena for being bad. But yeah, Dan says for gods they were entirely too human.
Yeah. Eli T. Cash mentioned that didn't Athena create Curse Medusa to be a Gorgon? And that's no. Medusa was one of three sisters, but Athena did adopt the Gorgon head as a symbol on the Aegeus from the Iliad. It was a device carried by Athena and Zeus, and it featured the Gorgon head on the material, on the outfit.
Well, Athena cursed Medusa without without reason, honestly. But she cursed her under the pretense of her desecrating her temple.
Well,
But
they were the daughters of Phorcys and Ceto, 3 sisters,
mhm.
and all 3 were able to turn anyone who looked at them to stone.
Oh,
And the other 2 sisters, Uriel and Cithino, were immortal, but Medusa was not.
oh.
So there you go. And maybe that was Athena's curse, that Medusa was mortal.
Well, there's a lot of stories there that claim that Medusa was also a high priestess of Athena. She was raped in the temple by Poseidon, and for some reason, um, was cursed by Athena. But I mean, there back then, so many of the tales were word of mouth. They were just passed down, um, you know, um, verbally, and things change, and a lot of these tales also depended on where they were told. The same person could be telling them, but if they're telling them in Athens, they're going to tell it one way. If they're telling it in Crete, they're going to tell it another way as well.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to look at all those myths side by side of the same thing, and to see where the little tweaks and distortions are.
Sorry, I just got this. Eli says the Greek gods precursors of soap operas and celebrity gossip.
Yep. Well, and it wasn't just the Greek gods either. All of the pantheons throughout, ancient history, the Egyptians, the Norse gods, the Celtics, the Chinese, Japanese, they were all similarly characteristic of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Very jealous, very petty, especially the Chinese gods. Oh my goodness. You get into the stories about the Monkey King, and that whole the 7 cities of heaven, the pettiness and the backbiting and the soap opera going on there. It's so ridiculous when they dramatize it in film. You're like, this is so stupid. Because it was.
Well, my husband was watching a movie earlier today, and to me, it almost seemed it was almost like a retelling of Attack of the Titans, but it was a little bit more like, well, it was like more sci-fi-ish, and I'm just like, this is so, it's like a better version of Attack of the Titans.
Attack of the Titans or Clash of the Titans?
Clash of the Titans.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, because
yeah.
Okay.
But it was a long movie. I can't remember what it was called, but I'm gonna have to ask him later what that movie was called. But it to me, it seemed very like they took a lot of liberty with Greek mythology in their story.
Well, when you think about it, the Greek myths, the Babylonian myths, Sumerian myths, the Egyptian mythology, that is the foundation for all of the stories that we tell today. We had the foundation of the hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell describes it, in the tale of Ulysses.
Mm-hmm.
And Ulysses' journey. That established the hero's journey, which became the template for all stories after. So, the super important stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with Campbell, it's his big thing was the monomyth. everything is just the same story told from different perspectives.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Donna says, why wouldn't the gods be human-like? They created us, taught us. And
also, a lot of the myths were people's trying to make an excuse for why they get to behave badly.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, hey, I get to be an adulterer because, look at, these deities and what they're doing. And, I'm a king and I get to have as many concubines as I want because, just like Zeus, I'm going to make this land mine and my lineage,
Yeah, but sometimes they forget that there are consequences to those actions.
They didn't forget. They just don't want to look at them.
Or they didn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, for having such an attitude like that, wasn't there a queen that was beheaded in France?
Which one?
Oh, yeah.
Are you talking about Anne Boleyn?
No.
Marie Antoinette?
That one. The more famous one.
Yeah, the one that was singing heavy metal during the Olympics.
That act was really cool, though.
No, that was an awesome.
I wouldn't want to be the part of the cleanup crew though for that, but
oh God, that. Well, you have to admit they were probably getting paid a pretty nice wage to be cleaning up after the Olympics.
Yeah, that's true.
And then also how much stuff that they get to pocket and go, hey, these are rose petals that were actually used during blah blah blah. I bet there's a lot of people who just made bank off of eBay after that.
I feel bad for the people who had to clean the river.
Or before attempt. Or after?
Yeah, well, the attempt to clean it before.
Because
and then the real quick before, yeah.
And according to some of the swimmers, they didn't do a very good job. There was one swimmer who came out of the river. What river is that? That's not the Seine River? Yeah,
this
is Seine.
And she said she saw things in the water that no human being should see. That's all she said.
It's just a baby roof. Sorry, flashback to Caddyshack.
So, hey, Willow, Carl Witzman, he posted an interesting comment, and this is absolutely true. He said, we created gods in our own image. This is true of the ancient religions. The gods were created in our image. And that's why they are so petty. That's why they are so jealous. That's why they are so incestuous. They were reflections of us. And, I mentioned off air before we came on air, I have a degree in comparative world religions. And this is a big delineator between the ancient Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Babylonian faiths and the Judeo-Christian and even Muslim faiths, is that the Greeks in particular knew that they had created the gods, not the other way around. There was no illusion that they actually believed that Zeus was real. It was literally their way to as Rich said, their way to justify their own failings.
Good to know. I mean, I can understand the need for faith and religion, and needing something to believe in. I feel like, I don't know, the whole Greek mythology things, it has always interested me, because it's, not all, like, all the gods seem to be connected to each other in a way, because, well, they're all family and related, but like, a lot of it is dealing with, uh, wanting to give birth, like, start a family, and you're praying to pretty much all the gods, because they all do the same, kind of like the same thing of, you honor them by giving them tithings, and they will give you a family or richness back, in a way. Which, to me, it's like, you hear about all these, like, the gods being like the god of war, but they're also, but every one of them has, like, either something negative, but it's balanced by something good of their character.
Yeah, I guess. And, one of the things the Greeks did is they created new gods as they went along.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a documented story in the book of Acts where the Apostle Paul visits Athens, and he sees an altar, and the inscription on the altar is "To the unknown God."
Hmm.
So in Athens, they had created an altar just in case they needed a new god.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And
You also had a case where you had several different gods going back to a single domain. Like you had Helios and Apollo, who were both sun gods. You got Athena and Ares, who are both gods of war, although different aspects of war. Where Ares is more the brutality, the animalistic rage, and Athena is the strategy, the thinking, the planning, aspect of the wars.
She's the graceful tactician,
Yes.
and he is the blunt force trauma.
He is the blitzkrieg, yes, and she's the the skating the labyrinth.
but I mean, despite the, like, all their stories of, torture or punishment, they seem to all have, like, be honored for something that they're that they're good at, and I find that interesting of each of the gods, though. It's like, where, like, it's like they're fighting internally with themselves, but then it's like, oh no, we have to take care of, the human beings. They love us. Eli says, Athenian, what do we even call this guy? Paul ever tried God? Danny McKellen says, any fans of Hercules or Xena here? Oh, those were great shows. Not so much the actors anymore. Well, okay, Lucy Lawless will always be awesome.
Those last three words just hurt.
I wouldn't call them great shows, but I would call them entertaining shows. I really loved Xena, because Xena was an original character, but based on the template of the Greek heroes, specifically a Greek heroine named Atalanta, who was the first decathlon runner.
Oh.
Yeah. And so anyway.
My best friend and I had a theory about those shows when we were younger. Unfortunately, we weren't kids when they came out. We were young adults, thinking we were much older adults. But he had a theory that there was an island somewhere that is the only place that they casted folks from for those shows because there wasn't like a single ugly person in the cast.
Well, that is true. The island is New Zealand.
Oh, not all of them were New Zealanders, but yeah, it's just yeah. Anyways, sorry. I don't know.
The Isle of Pretty People.
Yeah.
I think they call that Avalon in Celtic mythology or Arthurian legend.
Well, I mean, if it wasn't for young Hercules, you guys wouldn't have a Canadian
Ryan Gosling.
actor.
That's not true because he was on the Mickey Mouse Club before young Hercules.
That's true, but you guys kind of stole him from us after he did Breaker High.
Okay, I got to be honest with you. I never watched Young Hercules because I could never buy skinny boy as Hercules. I even had a problem with Kevin Sorbo playing Hercules because to me, Hercules is, Lou Ferrigno, Arnold Schwarzenegger stature, build, and neither one of those guys had it.
I will break you.
Yes. Yeah. And Sorbo, I mean, he was fit, but he wasn't like, swelled up. He wasn't swole.
Those shows, okay, yes, they were good entertainment then. If we were to go back to it now, I'm sure that we would see a lot of discrepancies.
What's interesting about Xena is the way they portrayed Ares. Ares was portrayed more as a political manipulator, conniving god of war than the Machiavellian blunt force trauma.
Yeah,
he could be that, but generally he was trying to get what he wanted through scheming.
Yeah.
And when I think about that, in Norse mythology, that scheming character is, of course, Loki.
Yep.
Which I can't think of a specific character from Greek mythology that was the Loki equivalent. Maybe. Maybe Pan.
If you're not looking at the sheer malevolence that goes behind some of Loki's schemes, if you're looking just for like trickster status, Hermes was doing a lot of trickster stuff as well.
Okay. Yeah, Hermes.
God of Thieves and Travelers.
Yeah.
Oh, Donna says Loki wasn't really a god. He only had godlike powers.
He was a frost giant adopted by Odin, raised as his son. That's one thing that Marvel got right.
Yeah. No. Loki and Odin were actually blood brothers. His mother, Laufey, Laufey was his mother, not his father, was a goddess. So he was more of a demigod than a god.
Huh.
Although his father was a giant.
Yeah. Laufey was a frost giant. Loki's mother was a goddess.
Well, Loki's mother was Laufey in the actual Norse mythology.
I'm going to have to make a note to look that up again. It's been years since I've read the Sons of Odin. Have you ever read that book?
No.
No. Actually, let me put that down in...
I read that maybe 100 times when I was in elementary school.
Well, I did apply to a couple libraries for a job, so maybe maybe you'll get a chance to look for these books.
So I'm consulting Bullfinch here. Page 250 is the entry on Loki. And what does it say? All right. You continue. I'm just going to he is of the giant race, but forces himself into the company of the gods and seems to take pleasure in bringing them into difficulties.
Yeah, Loki is considered a trickster god known for being neither fully god nor good nor evil, since his main aim was always create chaos. Despite his father being a giant, he is still counted a member of Azure, a tribe of deities, including Odin, Frigg, Tyr, and Thor.
Yeah, this is interesting. This is interesting, Rich, that Bullfinch doesn't get into any of his progeny, only that he was of the giant race. There is more research to be done.
Yeah, because Loki was one of the weird ones, because instead of being patronymic, he's actually matronymic when they say Laufey-san. And again, we're going off topic because we're but
yeah,
how everything dealing with the end of the world, as far as the Norse are concerned, is because of Loki's kids.
Yeah. Specifically the Midgard serpent.
And Fenris. And Hela. They're all his kids.
Yeah.
Well, Hela. Yeah.
And Johnny made an awesome point earlier about his state having like Greek mythology-esque buildings, and
so this is in Nashville, Centennial Park. This was originally constructed for the World's Fair in the late 1800s. And it is a complete full-scale replica of the Parthenon from Athens, Greece. There was also a pyramid that was built and a Scottish castle. Those have long since been gone, but the Parthenon still stands. It's in the center of the park. And in the very center of the Parthenon is this gorgeous 50-foot high tall statue of the goddess Athena. This is carved out of a single piece of marble, and it's been laid with 24-karat gold leaf. It's breathtaking. It's just stunning when you go see it live in person.
And Winnipeg has our own, like our legislature building is. It has like carvings of all kinds of things as well, but what's on top is what we call our golden boy, but it's a tribute to Hermes.
Yeah, and we were talking about this too. Also in Nashville is the Skirmahorn Symphony Center, which is modeled after the Parthenon, that classic Greek Roman architecture. It's everywhere, man. It's everywhere.
It is. It's like there's a guy that does. It's called the Hermetic Code, and It's like unlocking all the little secrets of our legislature building. But it is phenomenal in there. We have like we have statues going from like Greek mythology to Egypt to, you know, we have we have a replica of the Ark of the of the Ark, and just wow, it's a phenomenal building.
You can take tours with Frank Albo, who wrote and published the Hermetic Code in 2007, and he's been leading tours through Manitoba based on the Hermetic Code since 2009. Have you gone on one of those tours?
I actually ran I was supposed to go to on a ghost tour and kind of ran into that tour instead. And I thought it was good. I liked it. I had a good time with it. My husband, I think, was kind of bored, but yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot. I have the book of the Hermetic Code. So yeah, I did interview the Dr. Alba at one point. I had to delete it, unfortunately, because the feed kind of messed up, which actually kind of upsets me now. I should have kept the audio, but yeah, I'm sure other cities have it has remnants of Greek mythology and
well, it's so prominent in Nashville that we are called the Athens of the South.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny because Winnipeg was once known as the Chicago of the North.
I don't know that that's a compliment.
It was back then because of all our old buildings, but now it's. Although I would like to know what is who has higher winds, us or Chicago.
There have been days in Chicago where if I did not have my back of my duster unsnapped, that I might have actually been picked up off the ground. It was enough to actually blow me back, and I was topping over 400 pounds at the time. And that's at street level.
We have strong gusts of wind in my city, and because of all the buildings in one area, it kind of creates like a vortex of wind.
And as I'm thinking of it, I think the Field Museum, the entrance might at least be inspired by the Parthenon, if not exactly a replica thereof. But there's a lot of Greek architecture throughout Chicago, and it as much as I dislike the city in general, and I had to spend a lot of time there. It's actually where my office is located. It is beautiful to look at on those days that for some reason I look up and I remember to look up. It can be a very beautiful city architecturally. It's it's just usually though when you're walking on your commute or something like that, you're trudging head down, looking at the sidewalk, stuff like that, and the entire world looks ugly. But then you look up and you're like, crap, I forget this can be a beautiful city, especially lit up.
Oh, Winnipeg's very much like that too. This is our the Bank of Montreal in downtown Winnipeg. Like this is like Maine. pretty much Porte-Germain. This is what we see, and it is a beautiful building. Yeah, we have we have some of our areas blocked off because for safety precautions. They've actually put people. We have an underground walkway for people to get from one area of this downtown because traffic is insane, and that was opened up in the 70s to keep people safe. Our mayors for the last 2 mayors have been saying that they want to open up Porte-Germain, but that will make the lights go longer for waiting times, and we have people, we have drivers that are very impatient.
Drivers impatient? Never.
But I mean, whether or not it's a good idea to open it up, I don't know. I personally, I like the underground walkway, and I think that they should lower the rent so that more local business can rent there.
Headways are
an
full.
underground mall, so I don't know. People have been getting quite ticked off with my city because the people who run my city because this not enough cops are walking around the streets. I never see a cop downtown.
Really? In Nashville, there's 3 to every block. They're everywhere. So
they should be.
Yeah. So hey, real quick, while you guys were talking about the underground and whatnot and Winnipeg, I was just doing a little cursory research on Loki, and the reason that there are so much debate about his origin is because it's debated by scholars, and there are multiple tellings of his origin and his lineage in different sources. And one in 1889, a 1835, Jacob Grimm, he proposed that Loki was actually the god of fire and not the god of evil or the god of mischief. So there's a lot of debate about his origin and lineage. And as I'm reading this, Rich, you were right. Laufey was a goddess, but in some versions, Laufey is the name of the frost giant king. So there's two different with
all mythology, especially when you're going back before written language, when everything was still oral traditions and stuff like that. It's you have people again that are like, you know what? Chicks aren't as cool as us dudes. Let's go ahead and make this character male.
Yeah.
Or, let's make this character, of this or this character of that, because again, it's making things suit what they want.
Yeah, exactly.
And, face it, back then there was a lot of misogyny. Little less misogyny in the more early Viking Norse type things, because women were actually the property holders in a lot of cases. But again, we can talk about Norse mythology at a different point in time. It's so much of myth is it's like everything else. History is written by the survivors and the winners usually.
Well,
Yep.
and a lot of times what happens too with mythology is that it gets intertwined with real history. Like in the case of the, Celtic Arthurian legends, there was a real person in history, um, Arthur, but it's debated whether he was a king, whether he was a Roman governor, a centurion, whether, there's debate on what he actually was and who he really was. And then on top of that, they layer all of this mythology with the Isle of Avalon, the Lady of the Lake, the mystical weapon Excalibur, the wizard character of Merlin. And the same thing happens with Greek mythology. The king Theseus existed. He was a real character from history. But then he's overlaid with all of this mythology of his labors that mirrored Hercules' labors. The a lot of the journeys that he took on, the slaying of the Minotaur. It all becomes convoluted with real history.
Yeah. Eli says, if Nashville is Athens, what makes Gallatin? What with the ghosts, secret tunnels, rumored shrines, and said tunnels? That sounds very much like France.
Here's the thing.
Paris, whatever.
Eli, I believe in this rule called the principle of universality. That means that people are people, things are things, and events are events wherever you go. It's the same thing. Whether it's in Nashville, Winnipeg, Chicago, every city has the same structures, the same kind of people, the same kind of events, and the same kind of suburbs.
I'm sorry. I kind of wish that we were set up the same way as every other city, but we're not. Our city is not set up in grid.
Well,
with a grid.
Well, be
like
thankful
it
for that.
Should be.
No. Listen, I hate cities that are set up as a grid. That makes navigating them almost impossible. Every street should be two ways. You should never have a one-way street where you can only make a right-hand turn to go left. What?
You would hate driving in Winnipeg. You would hate it.
Setting up a city on a grid has nothing to do with one ways. Now, granted, if you're on a grid, it's a lot easier to do one ways. But it's a simple navigational system of 00 is here. We're looking at 500. Broadway. Broadway is the 5th Street east, so it's the only reason I learned to be able to navigate Chicago so long ago when I was driving Medcar is because it was based off of a grid system, and I had a book I could look up and go, okay, diversity is this many streets north, this many streets east, to be able to find where the heck I was going.
I promise you, Willow.
This is a real sign in my city.
Oh, listen, that's nothing. That's nothing compared to Spaghetti Junction in Louisville, Kentucky. If you want to drive in a city that is impossible to navigate, Louisville, Kentucky. It is the only city I've ever driven in my entire life where I get turned around and get lost. I am a human GPS, and I cannot navigate Louisville, Kentucky. And there is a junction like that they call Spaghetti Junction.
Oh, we call this Confusion Corner.
Yeah, there's something like that in Memphis.
And our streets are set up according to the river. So I mean, we have lots of waterways in.
Well, that's true of all river cities.
So, yeah.
All river cities are based on their their position to the water.
Eli says, and when Johnny overloads on navigational data, it shows.
So Eli travels
I
with
take
me
it
a
y'all
lot.
have carpooled.
He travels with me a lot. And here's what he has learned. GPS is not my friend. The Maps app does not help me. It is better for me to turn off the map app, the GPS, and just follow my instincts.
Okay, so my friend Borealis, our streets follow no rhyme or reason. I pity anyone who visits and has to find their way around. I mean, we have one major road that changes names 7 times along its path. Like, seriously. Okay, so I live right by the road that he says. So yeah, from one way it goes from it does change,
Right.
and it's just one freaking road. I don't know why it changes it 7 times.
All right, Willow. So in Nashville, there's a road that goes around the city. The majority of it is Briley Parkway, but then it becomes Thompson Lane, and then it becomes Whites Creek Pike, and then it becomes Granny White Pike, and then it becomes Briley Parkway again. That's just one of them. Then there's Old Hickory Boulevard. Now, which Old Hickory Boulevard? Because there's 2 of them. There's Old Hickory Boulevard that becomes Bell Road, and then there's Old Hickory Boulevard that becomes Briley Parkway.
Yep. Oh yeah, and in our city you have to be very specific. I'm sure that's everywhere, but you have to be very specific. If you say River Road or River Drive, that's two different parts of the city.
Yeah.
You do not mistake those ever if you're giving directions to somewhere.
Hey, Willow, I actually have a hard out.
Oh, okay.
So I need to take off, but this has been super fun. And Carl Witzman suggests a future show about maps. I think we're supposed to be entertaining, Carl.
Here's something very, very fun about me. Joe hates it, but I have a hard time reading maps. I have to orientate myself. I literally have to move the map.
I love maps.
Yeah, I do too. I used to have, I used to subscribe to National Geographic, and every issue you got a giant wall-size map, and I had them tacked on my wall, in a flip style, so I could change them out from time to time. Old world maps, modern maps, love them.
You guys, it was fun talking.
Normal kids have a pinup calendar. Johnny's got Ooh.
Oh, now right beside on the other wall, on the opposite wall, was a poster of Tia Carrera. So
okay, so maybe it is true where guys can navigate very well, which I have no problems with proving that point. Girls have a tendency to look to more like we have to point out where something is by. Like if I'm telling you to go somewhere, I have to say, okay, it's by this building. Or
so this is Tennessee directions. If you were to ask me, Johnny, how do you get to Pig and Poke Barbecue? All right. So here's what you're going to do. See this road you're on right here? You're going to go down here about 3, maybe 4 miles. And when you see a stack of tires by the road, you're going to turn right. Now, Don't turn before the stack of tires, turn after the stack of tires. If you've gone past the big tree, you've gone too far, you got to turn around and go back. Then you're going to go down, and when you pass the yellow trailer, you're going to take a left, and that's going to take you over to Mama's house. Ask Mama how to get to Pig and Poke Barbecue, and she'll send you the rest of the way.
My father grew up in northern Wisconsin. When I was young, I asked him to describe what this unit of measurement was, and I was called an idiot but he's like, all right, you're going to go 3 C's up the road here. You're going to turn left at the big rock. Dad, what's a C? It's as far as you can see. What are you, stupid? Years later, we were up in Wisconsin visiting my grandma, and something new was built. My dad was trying to figure out how to get to it, so we asked the guy in the gas station how to get there. And sure enough, the guy's like, yeah, you're going to go 4 C's up the road here. You're going to turn left. And I'm like, he wasn't BSing me. It was real. They give directions and how far you can see. Of course, my brain's going, what if you've got an astigmatism? What if you're nearsighted? You don't see as far, so therefore your 3 C's are going to be, very off of someone else's.
Or what if you have 20/20 pilot vision? That's much further. Oh, that hurts my brain. With that, I gotta go, Willow. Thank you so much for having me.
I think it's best that we just end it here because we can talk like this for hours. But you're welcome. Thank you for joining us, Johnny and Rich. I appreciate you both for joining me and talking about Greek mythology with me and griping about our cities and how poorly they are managed. How poorly they were all planned. All right, you guys have a good night, and I'll figure out something for the next episode soon.
All right, have a good night.
Have a good
night, everybody. Love you, mean it.
Be safe.
On button.